progression?
Yeah, it was a tough spot. He's a bit tired. He's had a hard week this week. Gary Kokoron, tough kid, very good engine on him. Did 8 rounds dead easy against the world champion. So fair play to him. He's fighting in 2 weeks' time, so he should be nice and sharp for that. And it makes you realise where Kell is. He's got a bit more work to do, but he's the ideal sparring partner for this fight for Chaves. Chaves is tough, he's dirty. He uses his elbows, his shoulders, his head. He's rough and tumble. So Kell's had a bit of that today.
It's been billed as Kell's toughest test so far. Do you think that's certainly the case with Chaves?
Yeah, he's a tough kid. He comes to fight. He's nothing to lose. He can punch. He's been in with some good quality opposition. Got a draw against Timothy Bradley, and got disqualified against Brandon Rios. But yeah, Brandon Rios in trouble, and he's a tough cookie.
Looking ahead for Kell's training now, how are you going to get that sharpness?
It's just a case now of getting him on the trike, doing some more running, sharpening him up on the pads, getting his sparring in, and bringing up to his peak. Steps into Sheffield Arena, and he's pinging, as they say.
Back in his hometown.
Yeah, back in his hometown. That adds another 20% to your performance. He knows that he's got to perform in Sheffield, and I always look back to the Carson Jones fight. And how he had to dig into the trenches for that one. He wasn't going to embarrass himself in front of 12 or 13,000 in Sheffield Arena. So he raises his game when he boxes in Sheffield.
Chaves, you said he's fought Brandon Rios, he's fought Timothy Bradley. Where do you see Kell going after that fight, if we can look ahead?
Well, we're waiting for the big fights, aren't we? They've been talking about Timothy Bradley for unification if he gets through his next fight against Rios. They're talking about Amir Khan. It's got to be big fights after this because we're struggling to get opponents for him now. There's always Keith Thurman as well. So it's down to Eddie. I think get this fight out of the way. Hopefully, he comes through it. And by March, April next year, he'll be in a big fight. Eddie probably announced it in the new year, but we need to get working on that and get him moving forward.
Mayweather is retired. The helm of the welterweight division is open now. Do you see that as a position Kell can make his own?
It is, but I think Kell would like to fight Mayweather. Mayweather retired before, and he's come out of retirement, and he got the hunger back, and he's had some good fights since then. So hopefully, he might just sling one last fight out, and hopefully it could be against Kell. But if not, you've got to make up for what's in the division. There's other good fights out there. Manny Pacquiao still operating, and that'd be a great fight for Kell. Before Manny Pacquiao retires, he wants one of the greats. I think that's what he needs at this moment in time.
Yeah,